Well, good morning, everyone. Jó reggelt kívánok. My name is Doris Folashadi-Trebic, and you are welcome to this session. It's very good to see that we have such a nice turnout. I counted about 45 heads here. That shows there's a lot of interest in the topics we will be discussing in this session. So, as you know, it is titled Advancing Mentorship, Business Resilience, and Community of Practice. The aim of our session will be to discuss these topics, as well as give you a concise exploration on mentor upskilling, as well as highlight key recommendations for fostering a strong early warning system in Europe. Now, as we know, SMEs are the backbone of our economy, and they are facing unprecedented changes and challenges. So I think it definitely goes without saying that early warning mentoring is very important. It is my pleasure to introduce the panel. I will begin with, just on my right, Ms. Eleni Tokasteka. She was responsible for planning and organizing the mentor workshops in the EWEMA project. Ms. Lucina Kaminska, representing DG GROW from the Commission, and Mr. Morten Müller, who was responsible for devising a strategy to interlink mentors with the wider business support network. We also have Professor Dana Redford, who was the lead educator in the project, and he orchestrated the EWEMA learning program you will hear about shortly. To his right is a lovely lady, Ms. Agnieszka Simona Adamczewska, who is from Poland, and she is a representative of a senior experienced mentor who participated in our project. And last but not least, Mr. Gábor Lánc from Hungary, likewise a senior mentor active in the EWEMA project. Briefly about the project, that's the short form EWEMA. You might hear it also referred to as EWMA, but the full form is Early Warning Europe Mentor Academy. It was a 3-year project funded by the European Commission. It just recently concluded 2 weeks ago, so it's very fresh, and we've got the major outputs to present to you today. And DG GROW, ISMEA, supervised it, the project, and the project was implemented by the ARC consortium. I was responsible for communications and management of the project, and I will be your moderator in this session. Thank you very much. Okay. So the first presenter will be Ms. Lucina. I would like to just give a brief word on the technicalities. We each have very short presentations. Reserve your comments and questions for the last segment. We will have a Q&A segment, and I have been informed that you can place your questions on Slido, as you see on the screen. Okay. Ms. Lucina Kaminska, please go ahead.
Good morning to everybody. It's very nice to see you all here because, as Doris mentioned, that shows an interest in how we can take care of companies that are facing difficulties. In 2014, there was the first attempt in the legal framework at the level of the Commission to look at the topic of insolvency from a different perspective. Till that time, the main objective was to actually how to efficiently liquidate the company that are having difficulties. As from that time, we've started looking at other level, how to help the company that have difficulties, but it's still viable and its fate can be changed. So we started looking at how to change the culture and approach to insolvency from liquidation culture to rescue culture. When we realized that the recommendation issued in 2014 does not have a sufficient level of support in terms of changes made in the EU member states insolvency laws, we came up with the directive in 2016. So our colleagues from DG Just started drafting the new legal act. While we, at our end, we've started to think how we can support member states in implementing some provisions foreseen in that directive, which is about introducing early warning tools. In our first attempt, early warning tools should have two pillars. One was about, or even three pillars, identifying the company having difficulties, then notifying, informing the company early enough about these difficulties, and then having a support pillar, meaning advice and mentoring for companies having difficulties to see whether the company is still viable and can be changed, or whether it should go for fast insolvency procedures, namely to avoid accumulation of debt and harsh situations for the entrepreneur. So we started the project in 2016, Early Warning Europe, that covered 4 countries, Poland, Spain, Italy, and Greece. And then we tried to devise the early warning mechanism based on the existing best practices in Europe, which came from Denmark, Germany, and Belgium. As a follow-up of that project, we then built up the Early Warning Europe Mentor Academy project, because one of the main findings was that we need more well-educated mentors to support companies facing financial difficulties. And that's why we have that project that actually came to an end, building up a learning program for mentors, but also compiling best practice cases, how certain elements of early warning mechanisms can be established, what best practices are existing in Europe and in the world in terms of how we can better build resilience in the company. We also got, let's say, best practice cases derived from the peer learning workshops. And we have now the learning program available at EU Academy portal, available for everybody who would like to learn to become a mentor in all the countries of the EU. And we are now trying to build a community of practice on that basis, so we can send off all we have been able to develop to a next level, meaning involving all the relevant actors to take the achievements of that project and deliverables of that project further. So building the national networks of mentors, national community for practice that would then go at the international EU level and exchange and learn from each other. So this is our sort of final send-off of the results of that project to you, to all who are committed or would like to engage in enhancing the environment for support to entrepreneurs in distress. I think I will end up here because I think I took enough time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I hope that you heard Lucina, and she has just briefly outlined the outputs and results of the project. Now, Professor Dana will tell us a bit more. He will go in depth into the EWEMA learning program. He will also explain how this program can improve mentors' skills, as well as how it can support the community of practice that was just referred to. Dana?
Thank you so much, Doris, and thank you, Lucina, for that introduction. You know, early warning is really one of these types of mentorships that's very special. This is something where mentors are going out and helping companies at risk of failure, and doing this pro bono and helping in this process, you know, in a very difficult time. This shift from insolvency to early warning is one of these key aspects, and I think it's one of these wonderful aspects that we have here in Europe as well. We have now moved the learning platform to the EU Academy, so our learning program is now fully on the EU Academy, where many of the EU projects' outputs in terms of learning will be in the future. You can find us by going to the EU Academy and searching for mentors. And you'll see that the early warning mentoring for SMEs is there. Here we have a course description. You'll understand very clearly the type of learning outcomes that we want, the type of target audience. We give skills of good practice in terms of mentoring, but we are very much focused on the special skills of early warning. And here we have some of the great expert mentors that were a part of this program, which was very much co-created. So I'm the lead educator, but it actually was a project team that created this because it has lots of knowledge from all over Europe that is in the program. We break it down into 4 different modules. So we start with mentoring and engagement, this aspect being very important to be able to make that first connection between the mentor and mentee. And I think, Agnieszka, you'll be speaking a little bit about that. Then we have problem analysis and managing change, because that's what this is. It's really a change management, making sure that these companies do not go into bankruptcy and are able to make that leap, that change that they need to do. Then we look into resiliency, the sort of future planning that is needed to implement that change. And finally, we have a readiness to mentor, really going into what people need to know to be able to implement this, and also to think about how you could train your mentors in your country with this module, doing a type of flip the classroom or other methodologies. We have a handbook also that is there, a user guide that you can see in the lower right-hand corner. Here you can go back, you can finish it, you can come back to use it as a tool in the future. So if you have, we have selected not so many tools, and we don't want to overwhelm our learners with so many tools. We have about 8 tools that we think are the keys to early morning mentoring. These are downloadable things that you can use, and now we have what we created in this EU initiative. We have several videos, but it's a lot of written material. It's a lot of downloadable links to other good practices, so you can see a lot about the learning material there. So what I want to emphasize, and I think we'll speak a little bit later about some of these aspects and how it interacts with the community of practice, but we really want to develop key competencies, and we want to develop key competencies specifically in early warning. We want to upskill both experienced mentors who know this area quite well and need maybe a little check of their knowledge, a little bit of refresher, but it's also for new mentors who are just starting out and to help them with these skills. And we really want to also benchmark this against the unique needs of local contexts, and I'll talk a bit about that a little bit later. Mm-hmm. Finally, what we involved in the whole community was the type of concept of social learning. This is where you're able to make comments, enter into forums, discuss ideas, and so this is a sort of a good practice. We also had master classes when we were implementing this EU initiative over the past 3 years. These master classes were very interactive, talking about specific subjects, but now here on the EU Academy, we also have that ability to have this social learning. So these are what are the basics of this open, free course. You can enter into it, you can share it, and we look forward to talking a little bit more about our program. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you too. Now, Dana just mentioned the Community of Practice Forum. And our next presenter, Morten, is going to tell us about how the communities, existing communities of practice, are being developed in the Early Warning Europe network. Morten?
Thanks a lot, Doris. I don't have any slides, so you'll have to settle for the beautiful picture of the lighthouse, which is also a lot nicer than looking at me. The question that I got was, what is this European early warning community of practice? As a concept, the community of practice is more than just a team, more than just a network. It's a way of working together that's really based on knowledge, and specifically on the knowledge that you need to solve a task together. And our community of cooperating bodies, as Lucena correctly said, goes back 10 years. But I think I would like to add that it actually goes back almost 20 years when my predecessor in my job went to the Netherlands, to the organization OKB, to learn from them, and they've been active for even longer. And that's how, you know, a little germ in one country can actually blossom all across Europe. And the whole thing that it started with was this thought of, let's try and pool our experience and our approaches, and together we can get better at helping SMEs to navigate difficulties. Keep them out of court, make sure that viable companies don't go bankrupt. Non-viable ones, no, but there are so many viable companies that face bankruptcy where it's not actually necessary for them. And today we're an association of 35 partners all across Europe, covering much of the EU and even beyond. We've started looking into things in other parts of the world. So I suppose nowadays you could call us a global community of practice based on knowledge sharing, based on inspiring each other, and based on sharing a common vision, which is, let's see if we can help viable companies navigate crisis. And in our everyday work, we see some trends that really call for an informed and coordinated and knowledge-based approach. And one of them, and I think Lucena touched a little bit upon this in her speech, was transitions. So many European SMEs are going through business transfers, but they're going through it often without access to the necessary information and networks and expertise that allows them to do this business transfer in a successful way. And these years they also have to digitalize, they also need to go through the green transition, and that's a lot at the same time. And if you're running an average micro company somewhere in Europe, that's simply too big a mouthful for many SMEs, and it could threaten their existence even if the SMEs are otherwise healthy and in business for many years. And this is where we need communities of practice, where our colleagues can exchange knowledge, build knowledge, specialize, and inspire each other. And in this context, business mentors are, of course, at the core of our work. And this is why it's not just an introduction, it's truly an honor and a privilege to have Agnieszka and Gabor with us. It's specialists like them that make our work possible. The mentors, they bring knowledge of the local area, they bring knowledge of the industry that they come from. They have many years of management experience, and many of the mentors have tried to navigate a crisis themselves as owner-managers of businesses. But, and now I think I've praised you enough. But the mentors, apart from the mentors, you really need ecosystems of support around them. We also need other key business service providers, and to actually be there, to back them up, to add what they can to these ecosystems. And sometimes we even need organizations that are not in the SME promotion and support area. Could be organizations that give personal guidance, even family guidance, private debt advice, things like that, because the mentors can't do it alone. So across Europe, I think these interconnected networks, they are already creating sustainable, resilient solutions for SMEs in trouble, and I think that illustrates the power of collaboration in addressing the challenges faced by the SMEs. Do I still have 1 minute?
Yes.
Fantastic. because Doris and Dana, you asked me a little bit to think about 3 key messages for the audience, and I think the first one would be to pick up from what I just said, that it really takes functioning business ecosystems to help SMEs in trouble and to overcome the crisis, and all the stakeholders in these ecosystems should really consider their own potential role. And you could say, but I just come from this and that organization, we're not directly relevant. You might be anyway. It's all about, and to just slightly rephrase what you said, Luciana, detecting, alerting, informing, and assisting. Mm-hmm. And the mentors, of course, they add critical value to these ecosystems. They're experienced, they're specialized, they're local, they're competent, they're impartial, and they're confidential. That's a lot at the same time, and it's difficult to find someone else who can say, yeah, but so am I. No, I mean, the mentors really have a unique role in this, and they're free of charge for the entrepreneur in distress. And I think that's an important point, because if you're in deep trouble with your SME, even a small payment can make a difference, it can be a barrier. And the cost-benefit ratio, therefore, of resilience mentoring, it's unparalleled. It's just really difficult to find a better business case than this, but the mentors need to be integrated into communities of practice. And to ensure that these communities are actually continued and viable, it does take a certain level of involvement and investment for this to work. It's not expensive, but business leaders who actually give their time, they volunteer as mentors. I mean, people like Agnieszka and Gabor, you can find a lot of other things to spend your time and specialization on, but you actually decide to give your time free of charge to help others who are struggling. I mean, it's a fantastic mindset, but it also requires management, logistics, capacity building, nurturing. It requires professional networks around them. So my message to everyone here in the room is, think about how you can be part of these communities of practice.
Thank you very much, Morten. And Dana and Morten I will be interviewing shortly after we have presented ours, just to delve in a little bit more on their respective topics. And now, as you can see on the screen, we will talk about the policy recommendations. So just following on from what, the key messages that Morten has just delivered, we, the EWEMA project, including its very active mentor participants, we have neatly packaged key recommendations addressed to 4 distinct stakeholder groups. But let's take a step back. I will just tell you a little bit about the methodology that was involved in the preparing of these policy recommendations. And then Eleni will talk a little bit more about the recommendations themselves. Now, EWEMA, the project, had over 500 active mentors. Mentors from 35 countries in Europe who were very much proactive, collaborating together in the span of 3 years that the project was running. And initially, we conducted a needs analysis to find out what it is the mentors would like to know the most. What are their pain points? How can we help to better their work? So we did the needs analysis, also conducted a research on a global scale of 70 existing mentor training programs, as well as business support programs. And I'm referring to even the likes of institutions like the World Bank's programs, OECD, ILO, etc. And so we did the research. From the research, we gleaned best practices that we fed into 9 peer learning workshops. And also, as you heard Dana mention, we've also infused those best practices in the learning program, its content. Then, as I mentioned, workshops where, of course, there was a lot of interaction, dialogue with these mentors. The mentors also were quite a balanced group, female and male, gender balance-wise, but they represented a very broad spectrum of sectors across professions. I'm talking about examples such as even aviation, agriculture, health, education, hospitality, etc. So really very diverse. So you can that should give you a sense of how much how rich the feedback and the interaction was. Then, of course, to ensure quality assurance in the project and the deriving the policy recommendations, we conducted iterative evaluation surveys. We got feedback and from the participants and used the feedback to build the program, but also we had a final survey this summer where we asked these mentors to define key messages. And these are the key messages that also encompass what Morten has just mentioned, but what we will be presenting shortly. In other words, key messages that will ensure, very hopefully, ensure that the role of mentoring in Europe is enhanced, that the ecosystem that the term that Morten used is strengthened across Europe and on the national level as well as even as far as the local levels. That is a brief methodological background. A final word on that is that these recommendations were validated and endorsed by these mentors I've mentioned. And the very first key stakeholder group are the policymakers and governmental organizations. Eleni?
Yes, thank you. So the first very important stakeholder are the policymakers and governmental organizations. And to them we have a short but very important to-do list. So first, what is very, very important is to recognize mentoring and to include it in a part of public support. So we know that we have to implement the insolvency directive. We have there the Article 3, and the mentoring should be a part of the public service, which is low paid or just it is really for free for our SMEs. It's very important. The other thing and our expectation is to ask our policymakers to provide the funds, but the funds, ongoing funds, for the mentoring organizations, just to have the money for the education, ongoing education of our mentors. We have to take care of them. They are working for free and they deserve for good trainings. Of course, all the SMEs should know about such kind of service, so we have to inform them to promote the early warning service in each country. And of course, everything must be done in the right, having the right mindset. So we have to take the stigma out from the crisis, and we have to promote the culture of the second chance and rescue. Because, it's not easy to find the entrepreneurs, and we really have to take care of their experience, just to cultivate it, because it is the great benefit for the society and for the economy. So these are the message for the policymakers.
And the next target group are the organizations supporting SMEs. Maybe some of you in the audience are from such organizations. Our key recommendations to you are, as you see on the slide. Now, I'm going to say that the very first thing is to try to strengthen connections with mentor organizations and mentor networks. Next is look into the community of practice that exists maybe in your country already, but also the umbrella community of practice that EWEMA has started off. Join those community of practices, be proactive, also involve the SMEs as well as mentors in the activities of those community of practices. Promote the EWEMA learning program. You will also be able to just have a look, browse around the EU Academy portal after this session and get a feel for what we have created. And I can assure you, you will not be disappointed, because it is a very comprehensive program. So be aware of the learning program, promote it across your networks. Tell SMEs about the program, because they can reap a lot of benefits from it. They can get a lot of support and even knowledge on useful tools. And I would say finally, but they're not really, they're all equally important, is that you also try to organize activities that can support this community of practice, involving the entrepreneurs, the SMEs that you work with. Now the next target group, Eleni will talk about.
Next target group is very close to my heart. It's these are the key messages for the organization providing networking facilities for mentors. So what you have to do, first of all, you have to identify the right policymakers and to knock to their door and to say, hello, here we are, and we need your support, we need funds to upskilling the mentors. You have to be proactive in this area and don't wait that they will find you. Go there and knock the door. Then it's very important that you yourself will build the awareness around the mentoring as a valuable, important service. And it's not only, to support the entrepreneurs in crisis. I think it's a great method to prevent the crisis. And it's more effective when we prevent, we know it. Then you have to take a benefit of these wonderful EWEMA mentors who can be your ambassadors, and you have to invite them to your organizations and to use them as the trainers, as the people who will facilitate the trainings for the mentors, will share their experience, will be the guides through the EWEMA online program. Use them, they are ready, they are waiting for action. And of course, don't forget that also your organization needs the fresh blood, that you have to refresh the expertise. You need young people, you need different expertise, you need the right coverage, geographical coverage, to be close to the entrepreneurs. So your work is never end. All the time you have to refresh the teams and invite new people. Don't create, the family with the uncles and aunts, all the time the same. So you have to be very accurate in this recruitment process. And on the end, the final message is to our main actors, our mentors. I see some of them also here in this room, and we have also the representatives here. So you have also to do the work. And first of all, you can't change anything when you will act alone, without any organization which will support you. You need the others to create the good teams, rescue teams, and to be safe, secure in your actions. So get involved in the national networking. Don't hesitate to go to other organizations, even competitors' organizations in such area, to cooperate. Please, you are really welcome in our international European community of practice. You will meet wonderful people who have the expertise from other countries. Yes, they will hug you and they will show you everything. And you can exchange in a very, very secure environment the best practices. The people are really, really open to share the experience and the knowledge. Promote mentoring service yourself to other mentors. You can recruit other mentors. You can see the people that they have potential to share their expertise to the others. You can recognize it by your nose, the smell. He can be a great mentor. So don't hesitate to recruit them. And just be our ambassador, be our you are the best ambassador of the things we are doing. So don't afraid to talk about our online training because you created it. So you are more than welcome everywhere in your country, but also in the Europe. And we are very proud of you, and we know that without you we can't do anything. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eleni. And just for some light humor, I guess, yes, we forgot to mention that the project also produced a certain perfume for OEMA mentors to be able to identify the,
yes.
There's a fragrance,
Mentor
like you
smell.
said, I'm just joking, obviously. Now, we will move on to Agnieszka, who, as you've heard, she's a senior and experienced mentor. She is also an example of someone that can facilitate the training of any, and if you want to begin a training program, she can, as well as other mentors, they can facilitate. Now, Agnieszka is from Poland, and she will discuss why she, and we all here, believe that mentors need to be trained in early warning specifically as a type of mentoring, but she will also touch on the benefits of training of trainers. Agnieszka?
Okay. Before I became a mentor, a crisis mentor, I was an advisor. I'm still an advisor because I run my own firm in Poland, and I help businesses on very different stages of development and in different conditions to run their business. A few years ago, I was asked by Eleni to join Early Warning Europe project and to become a mentor, crisis mentor, early warning mentors for entrepreneurs in crisis. I used the word entrepreneurs instead of using the word of firm or company, because in my opinion, when the crisis exists in business, it exists also in person, because business crisis is personal crisis. That's why early warning mentors should be trained not only in hard skills, because we are all good educated people. We are specialized in marketing, sales, finances, production processes, but we should also be trained in soft skills. And we were provided such support during Early Warning Europe project. After the project finishes, a lot of people who were involved in mentoring entrepreneurs in crisis go to the consideration that we need more mentors because there will be more and more businesses in crisis. And the second thing we need a standard of education for crisis mentoring. And we were given the opportunity to join another project. It was Early Warning Europe Mentor Academy. And this was the project during this we mentors created, of course with educators and Dana and Eleni, we created a program made for mentors by mentors. So I think that it's the best way for creating something by people who are the community of practice, because we practice mentoring and we can create the best program for new mentors. And also what is very good for me, it is the problem also for experienced mentor. This program is very advanced one, but you can use it in different ways. You can go step by step and study the whole program. But if you are interested in some subjects, you can dive into the subject and also learn it deeply. As Dana said, there is a possibility also of social learning, because we as mentors, we need some kind of intervention when we are dealing with the problems of our mentee. So you can use the chat and ask other mentors, experienced one and non-experienced one also, how will they deal with concrete problem. And I think that it's a good advantage for mentors, just this possibility of social learning. Okay. I think that there's another good advantage of the EWEMA program is that we just have built the community of practice, that we gather together professionalists who can deal with a problem together. Being a crisis mentor is not an easy job, because you not only deal with the problem of production process or finances. I'm business controller, so I usually deal with finance problems. When you get your mentee with his or her problems, you should also deal with his or her emotions, his or her relations and families, sometimes even mental health. So we as a mentors dealing with that problems, we need to have the opportunity to have supervisions and interventions, and this community of practice will allow to do this. I am convinced that crisis mentoring is the best way for solving companies' problems which are in a crisis, because it is tailored programs for them. And the EWEMA program, of course, gives us the opportunity to develop ourselves, to exchange our knowledge, our experience, to build this strong community of practice. We as mentors work pro bono, so we don't need money for our work. But of course, we need support. We need to have the possibility to exchange the knowledge, to meet, to be trained in something that we don't have in different moments of our mentoring processes. So that's all.
Yeah, thank you, Agnieszka. In summary, as you heard her very beautifully describe, the learning program is one created for mentors by mentors. Now, we're going to move to Gabor, who will tell us of a case study, specifically one in Hungary, about an entrepreneur and a business where Gabor was able to successfully support, using his early warning mentoring skills and knowledge, was able to support this particular entrepreneur. So, Gabor, we're very interested to hear what it was about and what was the outcome.
Thank you and welcome everybody. So it was a manufacturing company, family firm, 29 employees. They requested help in May 2023. They told that the revenue was dropped by 50%. Additionally, the raw material price, the semi-assembly, purchase semi-assembly, and the energy cost was increasing sharply, and they were not due to the COVID situation, then the war, the economic situation due to the war, and they told that they are not able to pass to the customers the additional costs, and they are making loss month by month. And the question was how long they can do it. First, we made a very brief analysis about the profit rates regarding the past 5 years. If you see the curve on the top, that is the sales. It was increasing. As well as the second curve, the blue one, the cost was increasing. And the company's own performance, the added value, was flat. It isn't changed. And in 2022, the inflation was above 14%. So in the real added value was shrinking. Additionally, how they used the added value, you can see on next chart that the top, the green line was the percentage of the wages from the added value. And between 2020 and 22, it's increased from 63 to 78%. It means that the company's production became more and more labor intensive, which is a light crisis signal in Europe. So what did we do? The owner and the son was hopeless and did not see the solution. We call it psychology, the fog of the distress situation, because they have too much and too detailed information. They are stressed, they are personally involved, they cannot select the relevant informations. That is the first thing we have to help them. And the owner was also meant that they had to send the worker for a paid leave because they are not able to give work for them. So what we suggest first, okay, let us take the general ledger from 2022 and in the beginning of what is available from 23. We made an analysis on cost structure, domestic sales, export sales, detailed fixed costs, variable costs, and we make a financial plan based on the current trends. And then you can see the scheme there. On the top, there are the sales, then the variable costs, margin, fixed costs, operative profit, and the financial plus minus. And based on this plan, we have seen clearly that insolvency will reach before the year end. We investigate a lot of options. There was no hope for revenue increase. There was no possibility to reduce the costs. That was the point when we have to say that in a crisis situation, there are no easy solutions. And I had to came up with the idea that please let leave 3 people to save the work of the remaining 26. It's a very tough decision. And I let them to think about it for 1 week, then came back. And the owner said that he doesn't see any other option. Then there was another thing what we have to support, because the wife of the owner said, please do not terminate the least performer worker's job because he has 3 kids. But in such a situation, the long-term interest of the remaining workers and the company have to be considered solely. So I suggested them write a very nice recommendation letter. Give additional 1 or 2 months of salary above what is required by the law. But the company's interest to run the business with the best possible workers. And now we see what was the result. You see, based on the yearly report, the whole yearly report of 2023, that the top of the curve, the sales was sharply decreased. The green line, the added value, the company's own performance remained flat. But this means basically in the last 2 years was nominally 14% increase. But due to the inflation, it in the real added value decreased with 17%. And the profit after tax in 2023 was just above 0. And this was our target. Situation was manageable. The company saved its credibility. And of course, we had this feeling that maybe we made the calculation well. So this is how we can help the companies. In a real crisis situation, there are no easy options. They need psychological help as well, not only analytical skills, to help, to support them, to make the tough decisions. We only can just suggest. Thank you very much.
Well, that was brilliant. Thank you very much, Gabor. And I think I'm not the only one here who loves a good case study, because it really brings to life all that you're hearing and you're reading. So we're telling you the theory of it, but now you see in Gabor's example the effect that early warning mentoring can have. And of course it's multidimensional, because as he mentioned, not just psychologically, but in all the various layers and levels, it really showed its benefits. So that was fantastic, and we thank you. And just to also let you know, audience, that in the course of the 3 years, the participants were actively working hands-on on cases. Of course, with respect to data privacy and anonymity, but they were working on case studies together, sharing solutions, ideas, and also exchanging their respective knowledge, bringing their experiences from their own countries. Now, I will just do a reverse and go back to Dana, who was telling us about the learning program. I'm going to start just briefly interview him as well as Morten, but I want Dana to explain to you how the learning program can equip mentors with the skills that are necessary and the competences necessary to support entrepreneurs in crisis.
Thank you, Doris. As we are all reflecting on, for example, what we heard last night in the lecture, but as you go to other sessions, we have to think about what will help Europe in certain aspects, especially in this stigma of failure. So here you have a very unique European-developed project developed through our expert mentors and our network and our experts in these organizations that have worked a long time in this area. And in our learning program, we have all of these good practices. And this is something I think very unique to Europe, and Luciana also should be a tip of the hat to her and Magdalena Klein, who really were instrumental in making sure that this type of project comes to the general public and comes to mentors and work. So we, I think, have a very important possibility here to work on competencies. These competencies are specific to early warning Europe, but I know that we have lots of questions probably from the audience, so I'll leave it there just to be brief, but try to emphasize that these are really important steps in taking and shaping the ecosystem, not trying to adopt or import something. It's important that we do things here in Europe, and this is a very interesting and important EU initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. I'll come back to you with another question. Morten, over to you. Now, we are talking about ecosystem and support system. How can the Early Warning Europe network and its existing communities of practice, how can they expand and integrate other business service providers? Right, the wider network. How can you work together with them, collaborate to offer a more comprehensive support system for distressed SMEs?
Well, I'd say it's about getting involved. I mean, already in this room, there's a number of early warning service operators from European countries that have been at it for several years. So all those who actually want to work with us and our national organizations, I mean, come to us. For sure, there is room for you in our systems. Even if people are more in a peripheral role, it could be employers, organizations, chambers, it could be different service providers and so on. You all have an interface of interaction with the SMEs. Whenever you see crisis signs, there's always a merit in actually flagging this to the national early warning operators, so that together we can detect, alert, inform, and assist the SMEs. And for those countries where there are still no services, the mentors are there. We just heard it. I mean, some big European countries, France, Italy, Romania, to give a few examples, there are no proper countrywide functioning national early warning services as it stands. Get involved. The mentors are there. We're very willing to help you getting started. So of course we can do something together. It's about creating the first contact, then we'll take it from there.
Very good. Good to know. Thank you, Morten. Dana, back to you again. Now, just highlight to our audience, what are the best practices if they're considering implementing mentor upskilling programs? What are the best practices that you want them to know about so that they can tailor those programs to suit diverse local and regional contexts, but also ensuring that that tailoring keeps the program itself relevant and effective?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good question. I mean, how in a European project where you have so many different member states, so many different ecosystems, laws, how can mentors effectively work, and how can a European initiative have something to say about all of these national contexts? So what we did was, with our mentors and our experts, we developed a checklist. So in our last module, you'll be able to go in, you'll be able to understand what are the good practices, what are the things that you need to know in your national context. And this has been gathered from all of these other experts, from people who've been working in this area. So that was one way in which we tried to solve that in a brief...
Okay, but you said in our last module, just tell the audience what's the module titled.
Yes, it's Ready to Mentor. So it's the last module, the fourth module, and there you have a checklist of good practices, of what you need to know as a mentor in this area, in your country. So you need to be able to go and define and to research that, but that gives you the guidance, the framework through the learning program to be able to know that you and your national context, you're addressing it properly.
Okay. Very briefly, Morten, one last question.
Sure, I can actually do both of these very briefly. First one, how many company managers make contact? Last year we helped between 15 and 17,000 SMEs all across the EU. Second one, if we've considered expanding the scope to startups, yes, we're already helping a lot of startups. If you go to our website, earlywarningeurope.eu, there's some great materials for startups, specifically even targeting budding entrepreneurs before they create their first company. And if you want the perfect best practice example, look at Finland, where they took these course materials that we developed and took the modules and they actually put it into the ECTS scheme. So whenever you do a vocational training in Finland, you have a chance of taking this as a module and get rewarded ECTS points. There's no barriers for doing this in any VET institution anywhere in Europe. Just do it.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Morten, I did have one more question for you. I mean, undoubtedly there's potential in when you have mentors collaborating with business service providers, when you have that partnership. How can we maximize it? What are the key structures and mechanisms that could be implemented, or maybe even should be implemented, to ensure that we maximize the potential of the partnerships?
Well, the mentors need basic structures around them, and I mean, just to take a very low-level example, it shouldn't be a mentor picking up the phone on a hotline whenever an entrepreneur calls in. You need a minimum of administration, also to filter the cases so that the mentors get relevant companies. So have a minimum setup, social media visibility, that kind of thing.
Okay, well, I mean, that was our offering of today. I'm going to look at the questions, so we've already answered one of them. Let me ask the panelists, how are you feeling as we've come to the end of it, before we address the questions in front? I hope you're all relaxed and happy, ready to answer some of these questions. We do have, I would say, maybe 2 more minutes, if we may. Yes, Vilta, thank you. So it says, have you thought about, let's take the third one, have you thought about involving the banks as early warning detectives? Morten.
Yes, and it's happening already. And it's really, really simple. We simply print a stack of brochures, go out and talk to bank managers and simply say, okay, look, guys, you could use your usual crisis management tools in terms of interest rate and payback conditions and things like that. But you can also simply give 3 months of leeway to the entrepreneurs, let them work with us, and then if we're not able to create results with these entrepreneurs, then you can start raising their interest rates and putting them into the torture chamber. So yes, and we are already doing it.
Okay, thank you. For mentors, so Gabor and Jeska, this is a question to you. You decide which of you wants to take it. Did you feel that you were losing time with some of those mentees, or are they always cooperative?
No, I have never felt like this, because I think that every minute that you spend to help someone is a minute worth spending. It's worth spending for us as mentors, because for us it's also getting more experience. And for mentee, even if they do not want to cooperate, they just started to think about starting to work with you or with someone else. Of course, it's. I think it's a very important fact that you should match mentee and mentor, because not everybody can work with everybody. It is very important in this process.
Okay. Gabor, do you want to say a sentence on this?
The very rare cases. It's much more often happen that a company owner called us and tell that your previous customer was is a good friend of me, and I want to get the same analysis from my company as you did it before.
Okay.
For my friend, it's much more often happen.
Okay. Well, that was interesting. Thank you, Gabor. I see a question that I think kind of gels well with what you've just said. It's asking, what cultural differences have you noticed between the psychological impact of failure in each of the member states, and how has that influenced the success of the uptake in each country? So, cultural differences between the psychological impact of failure, and how has that influenced the success of the uptake of early warning mentoring in each country? Who would like to take that? I'm not saying Gabor has to, but Dana, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I can talk about this, because this is part of my research in terms of, I mean, if you ever want to get into the papers and you're talking about entrepreneurship, talk about failure and the fear of failure, the stigma of failure, because this is something that I think is really culturally based. In terms of the uptake in different countries, I mean, I think we have some good practices. For example, in Portugal, we have a good practice in early warning mentoring that's by our small and medium-sized enterprise. It actually won an award here last year. You can look at that. But we also have emerging good practices, such as in Romania, where from a grassroots organization, actually a women's entrepreneurship organization, they are looking to develop this. So I think, you know, it comes in different flavors and different styles in different countries, but these cultural differences are part of the unique richness of the EU and also of our initiatives. So, yep.
Okay, well, we've run out of time. My final message here is that we hope that from our presentations you have learned how to get on the EU Academy portal to explore the learning program, and also that you have some interest in discovering more about the community of practice. And of course, last but not least, most important is we hope that we've been able to emphasize the importance, the role early warning mentoring has in EU and in Europe at large. Thank you very much.